Welcome back to our UK Singles Chart review, where this time we're reviewing each of the artists and songs that reached number 1 on the UK Singles Chart during 1974. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of new content. Thanks. Before we get started, here's a quick mention of the 18 songs that just missed out and only made the number 2 spot on the chart. As with the other years we've reviewed, please keep a lookout for a separate video on this channel that reviews the near misses. Now, let's get started. First up for 1974, it's Merry Christmas Everybody from Slade, a song which has been re-released during every decade since its original release. It has also re-entered the UK Singles Chart each December since 2007. Merry Christmas Everybody gave Slade the 10th of their 28 UK Top 75 chart entries, and it was their 6th and final UK number 1 hit. It charted at number 1 on the 9th of December, and it spent 5 weeks at the top of the chart. To date, the song has spent 124 weeks on the UK Singles Chart. Merry Christmas Everybody was a non-album single, but it was included on the compilation album Slade Smashes in 1980, which charted at number 21 in the UK. Slade charted 3 more times in 1974, with Everyday peaking at number 3, The Bangin' Man also reaching number 3, and Far Far Away peaking at number 2. Next at number 1, it was the New Seekers with You Won't Find Another Fool Like Me, which featured the lead vocals of group member Lynn Paul, the first time she had sung lead on a New Seekers single. You Won't Find Another Fool Like Me gave the New Seekers the 10th of their 14 UK Top 75 chart hits, and it was their second and final UK number 1. The song first charted at number 35 on the 18th of November 1973, and it reached number 1 on the 13th of January 1974, staying there for a single week. It spent a total of 16 weeks on the chart. You Won't Find Another Fool Like Me was featured on the group's 1974 album, Together. The album contained 14 tracks, and it charted at number 12 in the UK. The New Seekers' next single was I Get a Little Sentimental Over You, which peaked at number 5 in March 1974. After this, they didn't chart again until 1976, when they reached number 44 with It's So Nice. Mud replaced the New Seekers at number 1 with Tiger Feet. The band appeared on Top of the Pops performing the song whilst wearing tiger skin patterned slippers. Tiger Feet was the 4th of Mud's 16 UK charting singles, and it was the first of their 3 UK number 1s. It first charted at number 10 on the 13th of January, and it reached the number 1 spot the following week, staying there for 4 weeks. The single spent 11 weeks on the chart in total. Tiger Feet was included on Mud's debut studio album Mud Rocks as part of a medley with Dynamite and The Cat Crept In. The album contained 10 tracks, and it peaked at number 8 on the UK Albums Chart. Mud's next single was The Cat Crept In, which peaked at number 2 in April, before Rocket reached number 6 in July. They also reached the number 1 spot later in the year. We'll come to that later in the video. Following Mud to number 1, it was Suzi Quatro with Devil Gate Drive, which gave songwriters and producers Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman their second number 1 in a row. Devil Gate Drive was the 4th of Suzi Quatro's 16 UK Top 75 singles, and it was the second of her 2 UK number 1 hits. The single first charted at number 14 on the 3rd of February, and it reached number 1 2 weeks later, staying there for 2 weeks. It spent a total of 11 weeks on the chart. Devil Gate Drive was included on Suzi Quatro's second studio album in most countries, but it was omitted from the album's first UK pressing. The album didn't register on the UK chart. Suzi Quatro charted twice more with singles in 1974. Too Big reached number 14 in July, and The Wild One peaked at number 7 in November. Up next was Alvin Stardust with Jealous Mind, which was written and produced by singer, songwriter and music business executive Peter Shelley. Jealous Mind was the second of Alvin Stardust's 13 charting UK singles, following his number 2 hit My Cuckoo Chew in 1973, and it was his sole UK number 1 hit. It first charted at number 22 on the 10th of February, and it reached number 1 on the 3rd of March, staying there for a single week. It spent 11 weeks on the chart in total. Jealous Mind features on Alvin Stardust's debut album, The Untouchable. The album contains 11 tracks, and it peaked at number 4 in the UK. Alvin Stardust had 3 more charting singles in 1974. Red Dress reached number 7, You peaked at number 6, and Tell Me Why reached number 16. Paper Lace replaced Alvin Stardust at number 1, with the first of their 4 charting singles, Billy Don't Be a Hero. This song also gave the band their sole UK number 1 single. Billy Don't Be a Hero first charted at number 38 on the 17th of February, and it reached the number 1 spot 3 weeks later, staying there for 3 weeks. It spent 14 weeks on the chart.
Billy, don't be a hero. Come back and make me.
Billy Don't Be a Hero was included on the band's album, Paper Lace, and other bits of material. The album didn't register on the UK chart. Paper Lace had 2 more charting singles in 1974. The Night Chicago Died reached number 3 in May, and the Black Eyed Boys peaked at number 11 in September. Terry Jacks was next with the first of his 2 charting singles and his sole number 1, Seasons in the Sun, which is an English adaptation of a song written by Belgian composer Jacques Brel in 1961. The song entered the UK singles chart at number 20 on the 17th of March, and it reached number 1 2 weeks later, staying there for 4 weeks. It spent 12 weeks on the chart in total.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun.
Seasons in the Sun was included on Terry Jacks' debut album, which is also called Seasons in the Sun. The album featured 11 tracks. It didn't register on the UK albums chart. Terry Jacks made one further appearance on the UK singles chart, with If You Go Away, which peaked at number 8 in July 1974. Replacing Terry Jacks, it was ABBA with Waterloo, which topped the charts after winning the Eurovision Song Contest. It was the first of ABBA's 31 UK charting singles, and the first of their 9 number 1 hits. Waterloo entered the chart at number 17 on the 14th of April, and it reached number 1 2 weeks later, staying there for 2 weeks. The single spent 12 weeks on the chart. Waterloo was included on ABBA's second studio album, which was also called Waterloo. The album contained 12 tracks, and it peaked at number 28 on the UK albums chart. ABBA next charted with Ring Ring in July 1974, peaking at number 32. Their next single was I Do, I Do, I Do, I Do, I Do in July 1975, this time reaching number 38. Following ABBA, it was the Rubettes with Sugar Baby Love, the first of their 9 UK charting singles, and their sole UK number 1. The song was written by Wayne Bickerton and Tony Waddington, who had been writing songs together since they were both members of the Pete Best Four in Liverpool in the early 1960s. Sugar Baby Love entered the chart at number 27 on the 28th of April, and it reached the top of the chart 2 weeks later, staying there for 4 weeks. The song spent a total of 10 weeks on the chart. Sugar Baby Love was featured on the Rubettes' debut album, Where It's At, which contained 12 tracks. The album didn't register on the UK albums chart. The Rubettes charted with 2 more singles in 1974. First they reached number 12 with Tonight in July, then they peaked at number 3 with Jukebox Jive in December. Ray Stevens was next to number 1 with The Streak, which capitalized on the then popular craze of streaking. The Streak gave Ray Stevens the 4th of his 7 UK Top 75 hit singles, and it was his sole UK number 1. It first charted at number 40 on the 19th of May, and it reached the number 1 spot 3 weeks later, and stayed there for a single week. The song spent 12 weeks on the chart in total.
Oh, yes, they call him the Streak.
The Streak was one of 9 tracks included on Ray Stevens' 11th studio album, Boogity Boogity. The album did not chart in the UK. Ray Stevens charted with 3 further singles in the UK. He peaked at number 2 with Misty, and reached number 34 with Indian Love Call, both in 1975. Then he reached number 31, with In the Mood, in 1977. Gary Glitter followed Ray Stevens to number 1 with Always Yours. This was the 8th of Glitter's 23 charting singles in the UK, and the 3rd of his 3 number 1s, following his success with I'm the Leader of the Gang, I Am, and I Love You, Love Me, Love. Always Yours charted at number 5 on the 9th of June, and it reached number 1 the following week, staying there for a single week. It spent 9 weeks on the chart in total. Always Yours was a standalone single and did not appear on a studio album. However, it was included as one of the 12 tracks on Glitter's 1975 compilation, which was also called Always Yours. The compilation did not appear on the UK album chart. Glitter next appeared on the UK singles chart with Oh Yes You're Beautiful in November 1974, peaking at number 2. He followed this up with Love Like You and Me in May 1975, reaching number 10. Charles Aznavour replaced Gary Glitter with She, a song that he also recorded in French, German, Italian and Spanish. She gave Charles Aznavour the second of his UK charting singles and his sole UK number 1. The song charted at number 11 on the 16th of June and it reached number 1 the following week. It stayed at the top spot for 4 weeks and it spent a total of 14 weeks on the chart.
She may be the reason I survive.
She appeared on Aznavour's 8th English language studio album, A Tapestry of Dreams. The album contained 10 tracks, and it peaked at number 9 on the UK albums chart. Although Charles Aznavour didn't chart on the UK singles chart again, he did appear again on the UK album chart with His Greatest Love Songs in 1980 and She the Best Of in 1996. George McRae was next with Rock Your Baby, which was written and produced by Harry Wayne Casey and Richard Finch of Casey and the Sunshine Band. Rock Your Baby was McRae's debut single and his sole UK number 1, and it entered the chart at number 45 on 23rd of June. It reached number 1 4 weeks later, where it stayed for 3 weeks, and it spent 14 weeks on the chart. Rock Your Baby was featured on George McRae's debut album, which was also called Rock Your Baby. The album contained 9 tracks, and it peaked at number 13 on the UK albums chart. He had 2 further singles chart entries in 1974. He peaked at number 9 with I Can't Leave You Alone in October, and You Can Have It All entered the chart in December, eventually reaching 23 in January 1975. Up next, it was the 3 Degrees with When Will I See You Again, a song which they performed at Prince Charles' 30th birthday party at Buckingham Palace in 1978. When Will I See You Again gave the 3 Degrees the second of their 14 UK charting singles and their sole number 1. It charted at 33 on the 7th of June, and it reached number 1 5 weeks later, where it stayed for 2 weeks. It spent 16 weeks on the chart in total.
When will I see you again?
When Will I See You Again was one of 8 tracks included on the 3 Degrees' 3rd studio album. The album peaked at number 11 on the UK albums chart. The 3 Degrees charted once more on the UK singles chart in 1974 with Get Your Love Back, which peaked at number 34. Their follow-up single, Take Good Care of Yourself, reached number 9 in April 1975. The Osmonds followed the 3 Degrees with Love Me for a Reason, a song which was originally recorded by Johnny Bristol in 1974, and which was subsequently recorded by Boyzone in 1994. Love Me for a Reason was the 6th of the Osmonds' 12 UK charting singles, and it gave the group their sole UK number 1 hit. The song first charted at number 19 on the 18th of August, and it reached number 1 the following week. It stayed at the top for 3 weeks, and it spent 9 weeks on the chart.
Love me for a reason, let the reason be.
Love Me for a Reason was featured on the Osmonds studio album of the same name, which contained 11 tracks. The album peaked at number 13 on the UK albums chart. The Osmonds next hit the UK singles chart in March 1975 with Having a Party, which reached number 28. They followed this up with The Proud One in May, peaking at number 5. Next, it was Carl Douglas with Kung Fu Fighting, a homage to martial arts films, which was his first single to chart and his sole UK number 1. Kung Fu Fighting entered the UK singles chart at number 42 on the 11th of August, and it reached number 1 5 weeks later. It stayed at the top for 3 weeks, and it spent 13 weeks on the chart. Kung Fu Fighting featured on Douglas's debut studio album, Kung Fu Fighting and Other Great Love Songs, which contained 9 tracks. The album didn't register on the UK album chart. Carl Douglas followed up Kung Fu Fighting with Dance the Kung Fu later in 1974, which peaked at number 35. He next charted with the single, Run Back, in 1977, which reached number 25. John Denver replaced Carl Douglas with Annie's Song, which also became a hit for James Galway in 1978. Annie's Song was the first of John Denver's 2 UK singles chart appearances, and his sole UK #1. The single first charted at number 37 on the 11th of August, and it reached number 1 8 weeks later, staying there for a single week. It spent a total of 13 weeks on the chart. Annie's Song is one of 12 tracks on John Denver's studio album, Back Home Again. The album peaked at number 3 on the UK Albums Chart. Denver appeared on the UK Singles Chart once more, with Perhaps Love, his duet with Placido Domingo. This single entered the chart in December 1981, and it peaked at number 46. Following John Denver, it was Sweet Sensation with Sad Sweet Dreamer, which was written by singer-songwriter David Parton, and produced by Parton with Tony Hatch. This was the first of Sweet Sensation's 2 UK Singles Chart entries, and their sole #1. Sad Sweet Dreamer entered the chart at number 44 on the 8th of September, and it reached number 1 6 weeks later. It was number 1 for a single week, and it spent 10 weeks on the chart. Sad Sweet Dreamer appeared on the band's self-titled debut album, which contained 10 tracks. The album failed to chart in the UK. Sweet Sensation appeared on the UK Singles Chart one more time, with Purely by Coincidence, which peaked at number 11 in 1975. Ken Boothe replaced Sweet Sensation with Everything I Own, his version of a song originally recorded by American soft rock band Bread. Everything I Own gave Ken Boothe the first of his 2 UK chart hits and his sole UK #1. The song entered the chart at number 48 on the 15th of September, and it reached number 1 5 weeks later. The single spent 3 weeks at the top, and it spent 13 weeks on the chart in total. Everything I Own was featured on Booth's 7th studio album, which was also called Everything I Own. The album didn't chart in the UK. Ken Boothe had one more UK chart hit, When Crying Over You, entered the chart in December 1974, and peaked at number 11. Next up, it was David Essex with Gonna Make You a Star, a song written by Essex and produced by Jeff Wayne. Gonna Make You a Star was the fourth of David Essex's 25 UK Top 75 singles, and it was the first of his 2 #1 hits. It entered the chart at number 42 on the 6th of October, and it reached the top spot 5 weeks later, staying there for 3 weeks. It spent 17 weeks on the chart in total.
I'm gonna make you a star.
Gonna Make You a Star was included on David Essex's self-titled second studio album, which contained 10 tracks. The album peaked at number 2 on the UK Singles Chart. David Essex had one further charting single in 1974, with Stardust entering the chart in December and peaking at number 7 the following month. His follow-up single was Rolling Stone, which reached number 5 in July 1975. Barry White replaced David Essex at number 1 with You're the First, the Last, My Everything, which co-writer Pete Radcliffe originally wrote as a country song and which went unrecorded for 21 years. You're the First, the Last, My Everything was the fourth of Barry White's 20 UK Top 75 singles, and it was his sole UK #1. It entered the chart at 38 on the 27th of October, and it reached number 1 5 weeks later. It stayed at the top of the chart for 2 weeks, and it spent 14 weeks on the chart in total. The song was one of 7 tracks included on Barry White's third studio album, Can't Get Enough, which peaked at number 4 on the UK Albums Chart. Barry White's next single was What Am I Gonna Do With You in March 1975, which peaked at number 5. He followed that up with I'll Do Anything You Want Me To, which peaked at number 20 in June. The final number 1 for 1974 was Lonely This Christmas from Mud. This gave writers and producers Nicky Chinn and Mike Chapman their third #1 single of the year. Lonely This Christmas was the 7th of Mud's UK Top 75 hits, and it was the second of the band's 3 #1s, following their success earlier in the year with Tiger Feet. It first entered the chart at number 34 on the 24th of November, and it reached #1 3 weeks later. It stayed at the top of the chart for 4 weeks, and has spent a total of 37 weeks on the chart, which includes appearances on the chart during subsequent Christmases.
It'll be lonely this Christmas.
Lonely This Christmas was released as a non-album single, although it was included as one of 11 tracks on the 1975 compilation, Mud's Greatest Hits. Mud's next single was The Secrets That You Keep, which peaked at number 3 in March 1975. They hit the top spot again the following month with Oh Boy. That concludes our review of the #1 singles of 1974. We hope you enjoyed it, and please come back for the next countdown. Thanks for watching.